Amplify this. This is a Hand of the Week blast about the National Heads Up Championships. Chris Ferguson versus me, Phil Hellmuth Jr. For the last 5 matches, I'd kind of been talking about the National Heads Up Poker Championships that I played in, and they were shown all month long in May in 2005. After advancing past Min, the Master Nguyen, Paul Phillips, World Champion Huck Seed, Lyle Berman, and Antonio, the Magician Esfandiari, who I played in the Final Four, I found myself staring down World Champion of Poker, Chris Jesus Ferguson, in the finals. On May 22nd, NBC aired our amazing Best 2 out of 3 finals match. After pretty much breezing through the first match, I was feeling pretty good. I had won 6 matches in a row and would have been champion, but for the fact that the finals, and only the finals, was the Best 2 out of 3. However, I knew the rules, and now I had a big 1-0 lead against Chris. Just like the first match, I drew the button and won the first 2 pots. Now I was thinking, okay, this is where I called before the flop in our last match, and then Chris raised it up and I folded. I was thinking that it wouldn't surprise me if Ferguson raised it up, trying to win the pot just like he had the last match. Looking down at Ace of Hearts, 3 of Spades, I again called on the button. Sure enough, Chris raised it up. I thought, okay, I probably have him beat, but I'll just call and give him a little rope. In just calling his raise, I put pressure on my reading abilities because I knew there was a high probability that Chris would bet on the flop no matter what came and no matter what hole cards he had. With a flop of 9 of clubs, 5 of hearts, deuce of hearts, Chris bet out and I called very quickly. At this point, I knew there was a good chance that ace high was still the best hand, plus I had a straight draw, and I could hit a backdoor flush draw with the ace of hearts if it came heart-heart. The turn card was a pretty-looking 4 of hearts, which gave me a straight with an ace-high flush draw as backup. Now Chris checked, and I bet out 40,000. Chris now called it and raised it another 80,000, and the game was on. Talk about pressure on my reading ability. I began to rethink the pre-flop action and the way that Chris had bet his hand then and now. How did he put his chips in? Did I pick up any tells of weakness or strength? Did Chris have a 6-3 for a higher straight, in which case I was bad shape? Why did he only raise 80,000? Finally, I decided that I had the best hand, that my straight, my 5-high straight, my wheel was the best hand. I cannot tell you exactly how or why I thought that, but my reading abilities were very strong all tournament long. In fact, my reading abilities had allowed me to make it this far, so I wasn't going to dog them now. By the way, even if I was wrong and Chris had me beat, I could still hit a heart on the end to claim the pot. I had the ace of hearts. I asked Ferguson, how many chips do you have left? He said, about 450,000. In all of my matches, I had taken my time and played small pots until the right moment. Usually it took an hour or 2. Could it be possible that now was the right moment, only 2 minutes into this match? Yes, I felt the time was right, and I decided to move all in. Chris studied and said, I believe that I have 13 winning cards that I can hit. 13, I wondered. How can that be? If he had trips, then he would only have 10 outs. Obviously, he believes that a heart will win for him. Of course, I had the ace of hearts in my hand, and I knew that a heart would not win the pot for him. Now I was thinking that he had queen-queen with the queen of hearts or something similar, and that he might be drawing dead. I mean, what hand could he have that would give him 13 outs? Of course, now I was really rooting hard for him to call. And that being the case, I had to be very careful to not talk or give anything away. Too often when we want to call, we talk and we give away the strength of our hands. So I just sat stone still. Finally, Chris said, I already messed this hand up pretty good. I may as well call. Turns out his hand was a 9 of hearts, deuce of spades, which means that he needed a 9 or a deuce in the last card to make him a full house. Chris had thought that a heart would win the pot for him because he had the 9 of hearts, which explains his believing that he had 13 wins in the deck. Of 44 cards left in the deck, 40 would win for me, and 4 would win with him. would win for him. With one match under my belt, I was a 10-to-1 favorite to claim the title. As they dealt the last card, I began to stand up and shout, "Yes, yes, yes, yes." But as I was standing up, they turned over a 9, and I literally fell off the chair onto the stage, just like this, in shock. I had won this thing. I'm sure that this was fun for you all to watch on television, but to me it was pure agony. I mean, I hadn't won a tournament since the 2003 World Series of Poker, where I won 2 to increase my total to 9 World Series of Poker bracelets. Not that I hadn't been close many times since then. When you haven't won in a while, it seems like getting over that extra hump is extra challenging. Where if you've recently picked off a tournament, it seems much easier to win again. Next hand, I had a few chips left and went all in with Chris's King 10 to my King 3. I flopped a 3, but he hit a club to win that pot with the King of Clubs, and even the match score at 1 each. Of course, I was talking under my breath saying, "Why is the crowd cheering so loud? He put all of his money in 10-to-1 underdog. This is BS." I played that hand like a maestro. Of course, the cameras caught every comment, even as I fell on the floor, even as I walked down the hall of the Golden Nugget towards my room. At the elevator, I told the security guard to stop the cameras. I mean, if I hadn't, I'm sure they would have gotten in the elevator and followed me to my room. 15 minutes later, I was still a bit shaken. I was quite shaken. As I opened the elevator doors, there were no cameras. Waiting instead, they were around the first corner, along with the lovely Lindsay, who was waiting to interview me as I walked back to the arena. I guess I gave a pretty emotional interview, but I'm an emotional guy. I was steaming out of my mind, man. I mean, I was supposed to have won it. When I arrived back at the table, we started right away, and I looked down at 10-10, pocket 10s on the first hand. I smooth called on the button, which I had won 3 straight times by now in a random draw in a classy way. Chris complained about the fact that the button didn't rotate much match to match, but I had won it fair and square in a random draw. In any case, the flop came down ace, king, jack, and Chris checked and I checked. The turn was a 10, making me 3 10s, and now Chris bet 20,000, and I called with my trip 10s. The last card was an 8, and now Chris bet out 30,000, maybe 35,000, and I sighed and folded my hand. I was still in shock. Of course, Chris was bluffing and showed me the bluff. I mean, you know, and of course Gabe Kaplan made a big deal about how bad a laydown it was. But it really wasn't even a key hand. I lost 20,000 on the hand, you know. Anyway, I didn't mind that. It gave me a read on him, which proved to be important 30 minutes later. Here then to me is the key hand of the match. One that both Chris and I played well, but he played a little bit better than I did. Chris raised it up on the button, and I smooth called his raise with pocket jacks from the big blind. The flop came down ace of diamonds, 8 of spades, 7 of diamonds, and I checked. Chris bet out $30,000. Now I thought, I don't think he has anything here. So I raised him $30,000, and now Chris called. The turn was the 6 of clubs, and I checked. Now Chris bet out $80,000, and I studied forever. Something deep inside was telling me that I had the best hand. I kept thinking that Chris had jack 9 or a pair of 8s with a flush draw like queen of diamonds, 8 of diamonds, or something similar. Finally, my chips just sort of made their way into the pot. And the last card was the king of diamonds. The flush had hit. I checked again. Chris now stacked his chips in kind of a funny way. 2 stacks of blue chips, $10,000, 5 high, sitting side by side with 8 $10,000 chips stacked on the top, sitting in the middle, and pushed them into the middle of the pot. The bet was $180,000, and I studied for a long time. I now could only beat a couple of hands like jack 10, jack 9, or 9-6, or an underpair. The flush had hit. The ace was there. A straight was possible, and not to mention 2 pair of trips were all possible. Still, something didn't quite seem right to me. I studied for 2 minutes, which is a long time, while stacking and restacking my $180,000 in chips that I had set out. 18 high, just like this. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? If I called and lost, I would be down to less than 200,000 in chips, which felt pretty crippled to me. As TJ Cloutier would say, if I was wrong, then I was gone. Finally, I folded the hand, saying to Ferguson, nice bluff. I later found out that Chris did have Jack-10 and that he did bluff me out. Even though I made the wrong decision, I'm proud of the fact that I considered calling and really felt the bluff in an almost impossible situation to call. However, I give maximum credit to Chris Jesus Ferguson for playing that hand so well and outplaying me. Next blast, I'm going to tell you about the end of the NBC Heads Up Championship and who won. I amplify. Do you?